Alright, this problem should look familiar. It was on your mock test. We're going to go through several questions from old end of course exams. Some of them are kind of simple, some of them are a little more complicated. The more you practice this stuff, the better you're going to get. Okay, we have two different facts here. There were 21 items made up of coffee mugs and keychains. That's an easy equation. What's that one? Exactly. M for coffee mugs, K for keychains. There's 21 total items. M plus K equals 21. Now, the second equation has to include the different price of each item and the total amount of money that was spent. So what's that going to be? Yeah, 132.50 goes over here. But then don't forget you have to include the fact that a mug is 850. So 850 times M plus 275 times K equals 132.50. Now, we can use the addition method or substitution. It's ready for addition, or almost ready for addition. You have to make something cancel, exactly. You want to eliminate something. So what would I do? Okay, y'all want to make them all whole numbers? 850M plus 275K equals, now that makes this number pretty large, 13,250. Okay, so now I want to show you a little shortcut you can do. You don't have to do this, but you know how we can multiply an equation by anything we want to? You can do the same thing with dividing. Some kids like to make the numbers smaller, and usually with money ones, you can divide by 5, 10, sometimes 25. And you've got a calculator. You could make these numbers significantly smaller by dividing them all by 25 even. You don't have to, though. Let's just leave it like this. Probably most of you did. Okay, here's another trick you got to look out for. This one is asking for keychains, and it's a heartbreaker when kids give the mug answer. They get the answer right, but they don't finish it. So on problems like this, I really like the addition method. I look for what they're asking me for, and I make the other thing cancel. So I chose to multiply by negative 850, so the mugs would cancel out. So that's going to give me negative 850M minus 850K equals negative whatever 850 times 21 is. I got negative 17,850. And the calculator can help you even though these numbers get kind of big and hard to deal with. Negative 850 and positive 275. Be careful with your signs. Negative 850 combined with positive 275 is negative 575K. Over here we're also going to get a negative amount, and our final answer will end up being positive. So negative 17,850 combined with positive 13,250, negative 4,600, and then divide that by negative 575, and the answer was 8 keychains. And please double check that that's what they wanted. They wanted keychains. What if they had also asked for mugs? How many mugs were there? There were 13. They asked for mugs on the test. I just changed it to keychains. Okay, so a lot of kids said you guessed and checked on this, but now that you know how to use systems of equations, you know, guessing and checking is a valid method to solve these. The problem is sometimes they don't ask you to solve them, they just ask you to set up a system of equations. So you have to know how to set up the system at least. Okay, let's look at some that are kind of easy. Let's go back to the beginning of this. Now, we did problems like this in the first 6 weeks, except we did them with a variable box. Do you remember those? Now, we're going to do it now with a system of equations. Okay, so we're not going to let one be x or anything like that. We're just going to call Mary M and Jose J. If I want to write an equation from this first sentence, Mary's age is 5 times Jose, what does that look like? M equals Mary is 5 times Jose. 5J. Mary is 5 times Jose. Sometimes the questions are very straightforward, or the sentences are very straightforward. Now, ignore that for a second. Pretend like you don't know that fact. This second equation is a completely separate equation. The sum of their ages is 18. M plus J equals 18. Sometimes they ask you just to set up the system, and then you would pick from a list of equations which system would solve it, and we'd be done. And in fact, listen carefully. On your homework, it's all from old end of course items, and sometimes they just say set up a system of equations, but guess what I'm going to make you also do? Solve it. Even if it doesn't say to. Even on your homework, if it doesn't say to, I'm telling you solve it as well. Now, how do you solve it? That's up to you. If you're an addition person, do it that way. If you're a substitution person, do it that way. Sometimes I look at the problem and decide which would be easier. To me, this one's very easy for substitution. Do you see how M and 5J are the same amount? Then in this equation, you see this M? I can put a 5J in its place. So instead of M plus J equals 18, I have 5J plus J equals 18. 6J equals 18. How old is Jose? 3. How old is Mary then? Yeah, 5 times 3 makes Mary 15. So sometimes the system of equations is pretty straightforward, not difficult at all. This one is a little trickier. This one was, again, it was on an end of course exam one year. Try this one, please. I think this was a bonus question on one of your quizzes before. But it won't be bonus anymore. Now you got to know how to do it. I would use B and G for boys and girls, yes. Exactly. The very first sentence is boys plus girls equals 25 students. That's from the first sentence. The second sentence, twice the number of girls is equal to 3 times the number of boys. What would that be? 2G equals 3B. That's the system of equations. Sometimes it just says, hey, set up a system of equations. Ms. Heim is telling you also to solve it. It's not ready for substitution. It's not ready for addition. Either method is easy, but you got to do a little bit of rigging for yourself. What do y'all want to do? Addition? Okay, for addition, they need to be in standard form. So that means these 3 boys, I'm going to bring them over here. Now, what happens to them? Yeah. If 2G equals 3B, I'm going to move them over here, and it's going to become negative 3B. Then what? Plus 2G equals 0, because I moved everything from the right over to the left. Now, I'm going to make the boys disappear. If only it were that easy. Okay, so we're going to multiply by 3. Then I would get 3B plus 3G equals 75. And then the boys will cancel right out, and I get 5G equals 0 plus 75, which is 75. And what's 75 divided by 5? 15. 15 girls. There was 25 kids in the whole class, so how many boys? 10. That's 25 kids right there. Now, is twice the girls equal to 3 times the boys? If the girls are 15, what's twice the girls? 30. Is that 3 times the boys? Yeah, 10 times 3 is also 30. Yes. Substitution way, absolutely. B plus G equals 25. And then 2G equals 3B. Let me show you what somebody in my lunch class did, which I had never thought of this. They multiplied, third period, same thing. Yes. They multiplied everything by 2. Okay, let me show you what they did. 2B plus 2G equals 50. You see what I did to the top equation? And do you see how 2G and 3B are the same thing? Then they took this 2G out and put in a 3B, and they got 5B equals 50, B equals 10. I never thought about doing it that way. So, anyways, it was I can't think of his name. I'll figure it out in a second. Okay, now let's do it. B plus G equals 25. Let's do it the other substitution way. Jacob. It was Jacob. It was Jacob. Okay, now, to make substitution work, you need to have one letter all by itself. So you need to kind of move something around on the top equation. Either move the G to the other side or the B to the other side. Which do you want to do? The what? The B. Okay, so I'm going to modify this top equation to make it say G equals 25 minus B. Are you okay with that? Now, that means now I know that G is the same thing as 25 minus B. You see this G right here? I'm going to take it out and put a 25 minus B in its place. And now I've got 2, instead of 2 times G, I've got 2 times 25 minus B equals 3B. Well, you got to distribute here. 2 times 25 is 50. 2 times negative B is negative 2B, and that equals 3B. Move these negative 2B's over here. You have 50 equals 5B, and you still get 10 boys. And then 25 kids, that would give you 15 girls. So substitution works on any method, and so does the addition way. You just got to find what you like the best and do it. All right, I wanted to look at one of these guys. Again, we did these in the first 6 weeks, and we did them a little differently. When it comes to solving this, folks, y'all remember these perimeter problems? You can do it the old way if you want to. Okay. Guys. Okay, the length of a rectangle is 4 less than twice the width. This is one of those questions where we would make a variable box. I need everybody's focus here, guys. We're not going to do a variable box. We're going to make 2 separate equations. Demetria, are you with me? Okay, shut up. The length is 4 less than twice the width. Who can make an equation out of that? L is 2W minus 4. That's one of the equations right there. The second equation is just from this little fact that the perimeter is 28 meters. How do you find the perimeter of a rectangle? You add all the sides, but there's a little shortcut because the sides come in pairs, right? 2L plus 2W equals 28. This is the system that would solve that problem. The only thing different that we did is we didn't have W's, we had X's instead of W's. Now, so think about your rectangle. You've got a length and a length and a width and a width. Well, in place of the lengths, what can we put? Right, we're going to take these out and put in 2W minus 4s. And now the whole perimeter is about W's. It's just like substitution. So let's solve this real quick. What's 2W, 2W, WW? 6W minus 8 equals 28. Add 8 to both sides. And then the width would be 6. Boys, please stop. If the width is 6, what's the length? 2 times 6 minus 4? 8. Now remember, those two dimensions should never ever add up to your perimeter. What does 8 plus 6 add up to? 14. It adds up to half of the perimeter. Okay. Try this one on your own, please. This is not a rectangle one. It's just a random system of equations. Boys, get busy. Sure. It doesn't say John is negative 30. It says if you take his age and decrease it by 3 times his sister's age. That is what it means. No. Okay, tell me the two, what did you call them? sentence thingies. You mean the two equations? All right, give me... Oh, whoopsie. Did I change the screen? Okay, give me the first equation. Yes. J plus his sister's age equals 26. What's the second equation? Exactly. John's age decreased by 3 times his sister's age is negative 30. This one's set up nicely for the elimination, the addition method. However, you've got to rig that top equation a little bit. Edwin, this is the one you asked about. Well, you did that and then you stopped. How could you make the sister's age cancel? Not add 3. Multiply the whole top equation by 3. Then you would get 3j plus 3s equals whatever 26 times 3 is. And yes, you could have multiplied either of the equations by negative 1 to make John cancel. Yes, you could have done that. That might have been easier. Okay, add them up. Now please be careful when you add them up. What is j plus 3j? Some kids are putting 2j there. It's 4j. The s's cancel. And negative 30 plus positive 78 is 48. How old is John? 12. And how old would his sister be then? 14. 26 minus 12 is 14. So sister is 14, John is 12. Do the addition method except eliminate John. Okay. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't think of that, but that would probably be easier. So which one did you multiply? Pick an equation and multiply by negative 1. So you're going to change the signs of all of this. Then the j's cancel and you get 4s equals 56. And 56 divided by 4 should be 14, right? So sister is still 14, and they still add up to 26, so now do 26 minus 14, and that means John is still going to be 12. You still get the same two answers. And you also could have done substitution. Anybody need to see it substitution? You really need to embrace this method. Sometimes it's easier, I promise. I mean, substitution will work. But to me, on this one, substitution is just, you're creating more work for yourself. Let's see, j minus 3s equals negative 30. Okay, you gotta rig something if you want to do substitution. What do you do first? Oh, so which one? Pick an equation and move something. You can move the 3s over. So j equals positive 3s minus 30, right? Then this j can be replaced with this amount right here. If j and 3s minus 30 are the same thing, I'm going to put in 3s minus 30 right here. 3s and s is 4s. Add 30 to both sides, you get 56. And 56 divided by 4 is 14 for the sister. So either way works. Alright. We'll skip that one for now. This is one that was on an end of course exam. Please try this one. You haven't even read it yet. Wah. Do it. Nicole. But Nicole, here's your homework. You don't get out of homework. Make sure you solve them all, even if it just says to write the system, okay? Guys, get quiet. Y'all need to practice these. The more you practice, the better you get. There are 2 separate pieces of information here to give you 2 separate equations. Do you just what now? Now, this is kind of like the pencil lead problem and the problem where you're dealing with the same. We got books. They're both books, but some of them they're different widths. They tell you what to call them. They say to call The 2-inch ones are going to call X. The 3-inch ones are going to call Y. So keep that in mind. One equation is not about how thick they are. One equation is just about how many books are there. Yeah, there's 12 books. 2 different kinds of books. We're calling them X and Y's. And there's a total of 12. Demetria, are you with me? You're staring off into space. Now, we're going to stack all of these books on top of each other. And the total stack is 31 inches high. What equation would that match? 2 times every X book plus 3 times every Y book equals the total of 31 inches in the stack. So solve that system, please. Please try the addition method. How can you make the X's cancel? Multiply the top equation by -2. Or you could multiply the top equation by -3 and make the Y's cancel. Christopher, you better be doing this problem. Edwin Moreno, take your hoodie off. Okay, this one was really easy. When you make the X's cancel, you've got the Y answer right away because the X's cancel out. 3Y and -2Y is just Y. And 31 minus 24 is 7. How many of the other types are there of the X's? Yeah, there's 12 total books, and 12 minus 7 would be 5. Is that 12 books? Yes. Let's make sure it makes 31 inches. 5 times 2 would be 10 inches. 7 times 3 would be 21. That's 31 total inches in the stack. So yes, it works. Okay, tricky phrases, folks. There will be some tricky phrases, including on your assignment today. Kids miss it. Kids get it backwards all the time. Okay, so tell me what the first equation would be. No, it's not. It's S equals 2J. Okay, and some kids do want to put J equals 2S, and that's backwards. These can be confusing. When I read these, I ask myself, what are there more of? It's pretty obvious when you read this that there's supposed to be more seniors. This equation gives me more seniors because you're taking the junior number and doubling it. Like, let's say there was 5 juniors. What am I going to do to the junior number? How many seniors would that give me? 10. Isn't that giving me more seniors? Because 5 times 2 is 10. It is 2 times J. That's what I have written right here. All right, the next one. Yeah, what are there more of here? Dogs. Okay, that means you'd have to take the cat number and add 4 more to it. That's going to give you more dogs. Another way to say this would be to say dogs are 4 more than cats, but that's not the way they said it. All right, the next one, number 3. Let's call 8th graders E and 7th graders S. E equals 3S. Okay, and then the last one, he has 9 more quarters than dimes. Q equals... Yes, this would give him more quarters. He's supposed to have more quarters. If you take the dime number and add 9 more to it, that's going to give him more quarters. Times means multiply. More than means you're adding, yes. All right, I'm not done, guys. Get quiet. All right, here's the system. This is a system of equations. We're going to write a system and then solve it. The trick here is this word right here. Okay, I know you can probably figure this one out, but I want to write a system. The average of the first and second quiz is 90. We're going to call it F and S for first and second. How would I write an equation that matches this sentence? F plus S equals 90 is not correct. Yes. The way you find an average is you add up the two or whatever many grades and then divide by how many grades you had. Okay, and what's the other equation? Okay, now, if you had to solve this, you're going to have one like this on your homework, except it's not about a quiz score, it's about a bowling score. You need to make this problem right here, this equation right here, you need to make it more user-friendly, so I want to make sure you know how to do that. In other words, I want to get rid of the fraction. Yes. Now please watch how this happens because some kids mess up on this part. We're going to multiply this side of the equation by 2 and this side of the equation by 2. It is not 2f plus 2s. Yeah, what is this 2 and this 2? What happens to these 2's? They cancel out before the 2 gets a chance to multiply into the f and s. It cancels out. So it's just f plus s equals 180. Which that would make sense if your average was 90 on 2 tests. That means you'd had 180 total points. Because what's 180 points divided by 2 quizzes? 90. That's a 90 average right there. So now f plus s equals 180. We just modified the way the equation looks so we can actually use it. Alright, I'm going to pass out your assignment and I want you to set up the whole first page. Before you leave today, you're going to set up the whole first page. I don't want you to solve it yet. Are you going to have to solve it for homework? Yes. Every single one you solved. But there were some tricky ones on the front and I want to make sure you know how to set them up. We're going to come back in a minute and make sure you had them set up correctly. Alright, your homework, the 6-4 worksheet. Last year, what I did was made a quiz exactly like this, except with different numbers. So if you're setting things up backwards or don't know how to set up the equations at all, you're not going to do well on this quiz. Number 1, let's make sure you have it set up correctly. And again, you're solving all of these. I just wanted to make sure before you leave me that you can set at least the first page up correctly. The number of girls in Mrs. Leonard's class is 6 less than twice the boys. Girls is 6 less than twice the boys. That's one of your equations. She has a total of 120 students. So girls plus boys equals 120. Then you have to decide how you want to solve it. It's set up for substitution if you wanted to do that. Or you could move this 2b over here and make it a negative 2b and then force something to cancel if you like the elimination method. That one wasn't too bad. Number 2, here is one where kids get things backwards. We have cola and root beer. 2 different types of sodas. There's 24 total cans. So that one's just cola plus root beer equals 24. The second equation was one of those tricky phrases. There were 3 times as many cans of cola as root beer. 3 times as much cola as root beer. What is there more of? Yeah, there's more cola. So you have to start with cola equals 3 times the root beer. This gives you more cola because you triple the root beer number just to equal the cola. Number 3 also had a tricky problem in it because it was talking about the average bowling score for 2 games. We're going to call it the first game and the second game, F and S. Her her average for those two games was 158. So what would that look like? F plus S divided by 2 equals 158, because that's how you find an average of two different game scores. You would add up the first and the second and divide by 2 because there's two total games. Now, what if I needed to use that, which you're going to have to use it, and it's not very user-friendly right now? Multiply everything by 2. Both sides of the equation. Now, this 2 is not going to get a chance to distribute into the F and S, because what's going to happen to this 2? The top 2 and the bottom 2 will cancel out, and you will just be left with F plus S equals 158 times 2, which is 316. So that's just a modified version of that first equation. The second equation said her second score was 12 lower than first. Second was, or second is, 12 lower than first. S equals F minus 12. So here's the two equations that I would use to solve that system. You again pick, do you want to use substitution? Do you want to bring this F over and make the F's cancel out? It would work easily for either method. Now, number 4, here's the one I had a lot of kids struggling with. Here's what's happening on number 4. You've got microwaves and TVs, right? Each one of those items is there's a bunch of microwaves, a bunch of TVs, they're being loaded into a truck. Let's talk about a TV. What do you know about a TV from the problem? From the problem. It weighs 50 pounds, and what else? And the box takes up 4 cubic feet of space. Okay, so the boxes are different sizes, and obviously the boxes are different weights. Tell me about a microwave. How much does it weigh? 30 pounds, and its box is 3 cubic feet. We need to kind of pull the information out. We need to make one equation that's about the weight, because they talk about the total weight in the truck. What's the total weight in the truck? There's 1,500 pounds of merchandise in the truck made up of these TVs and microwaves. So let's write an equation that's all about weight. What would that look like? 50T plus 30M equals the 1,500 pounds. That's all about weight. Now let's write one about space, about the size of the boxes, the cubic feet business. 4T plus 3M equals 138 cubic feet that are in the truck. So the truck has a certain amount of space and it has a certain total weight. So one about weight, one about the space, the size of the boxes. It would be super easy to make the microwaves cancel just by multiplying the bottom one by negative 10. Could you do what now? Yes. Well, not. You could divide by negative 10. If you divided this whole equation by negative 10, it would make the number smaller and it would make the m's cancel. Yeah, you can do that too. Okay, number 5 is really not that tricky, but let's just go ahead and set it up. The length of a rectangle is 3 more than twice the width. The length is 3 more than twice the width. The perimeter is 120. That's just the perimeter formula. 2 lengths and 2 widths is 120. If I were going to solve this one, I usually just like to draw a picture. Instead of length, length, width, width, I'm going to take the length out and put in 2W plus 3, because that's what the length equaled, and then I can just add it up from the picture. Now, you have to do this whole entire worksheet. I just set up the first 5 with you just to make sure you're on the right track, but you must set them all up and solve them. Even if it doesn't say to, I'm telling you, set them up and solve them.